When you're ready.
So animal experimentation is a largely debated topic in our society as it provides information within medical and biological research for the purpose of developing things like safer and more effective items that are at the source of our consumer industry. And while many believe that the techniques used in animal testing have and will continue to improve human life, others would argue that it has the potential to generate some unfortunate consequences. So the issues related to animal experimentation are largely based on concerns with things like environmental changes, economic instability, and moral standards related to the dignity of the animal. And many of these progressions that have emerged from animal testing must be addressed, considering the extent to which their negative outcomes have and will continue to impact our global population if we do not stop them. So, the intended purpose of animal testing is to discover groundbreaking solutions to some of our everyday problems. However, certain individuals believe that these investigative strategies generate more risks than benefits. Animal research plays a critical role in exploring new medical devices and manufactured goods, but it often comes at a cost and can be dangerous in more ways than one. So therefore, I believe that animal experimentation should not be pursued in the lab because these tests are often seen as harmful, cruel, and sometimes even ineffective. So in recent years, there's been increased awareness surrounding caution and care that must be required with animal experimentation, but there are still major concerns regarding the environmental impacts that it has in our world. One serious complication with animal experimentation is waste production. So, for instance, consider that animal bodies in the lab are often contaminated with toxic and hazardous chemicals, viruses, or other infectious diseases, and a significant amount of other laboratory waste, such as animal excrement, bedding, needles, and syringes, are all very difficult to dispose of, and very few waste facilities can actually dispose of them and handle them. With that being said, air pollution is produced by the emission of these gases and incineration of these animal carcasses, and a lot of these pollutants are carried long distances, whether by air or land or water, and they affect distant areas from the incinerator. And scientists have found that exposure to these chemicals often lead to things like bronchitis or decreased life expectancy in individuals who are contaminated by them. And then with that, soil contamination and runoff of animal waste with other debris related to drug and chemical testing may also result in groundwater contamination. Because of these careless actions, public drinking water supplies are contaminated by animal testing because the public water treatment facilities cannot filter out these contaminants and the water solvents in the wastewater. The economic drawbacks of animal experimentation are similarly important to address because they often cause just as much of a problem. So non-animal methods we found are often less costly, less time consuming to perform, and they also promise faster delivery of test results with a greater applicability to humans. And due to our things like our anatomy and our physiology and our metabolism, the human body usually reacts differently to the drugs and treatments that many of these animals are subject to during testing. This suggests that animal testing is a poor predictor of the impacts that many of these experiments will actually have on humans because these techniques can sometimes produce misleading results. And then finally, one of the major challenges and most controversial issues with animal experimentation is figuring out how to manage the pain and mistreatment that many of these animals must endure during experimenting. So testing must be conducted while aiming to reduce pain, suffering, and stress inside the animal enclosure. In order to maximize this care, and assessment of things like the method of administration, the effects of the substances on the animals, and the amount of restraint and handling that's required are all things that should be considered. Sadly, careful handling of the animals and administration of appropriate anesthetics have been disregarded in past experiments. Fortunately, there are many alternative methods for animal experimentation that are on the rise, especially in recent years. With this in mind, the rates of animal suffering while in the lab have drastically reduced because these new approaches help to use experiments in the lab that have less animals and they take less time. Despite these facts, the ethical debate of animal experimentation seems to overshadow many of the benefits that it has to offer, and the emotion may be an ultimate determining factor, as I and many believe that all creatures deserve to be valued and are worthy of respect.
Round of applause. Ruby, how did you handle differing perspectives in order to reach your conclusion?
I addressed it at the end, but I think that the ethical perspective, which I saved for last, definitely got the best of me because there was a relatability factor of sort of considering and researching through the research journals that I found that animals, although they can't express it and we don't take it into consideration, how they also have emotions and they can communicate with each other, but we often, like I said, we don't consider that. So I think that lens definitely got the best of me in my conclusion, but finding out about so many different environmental impacts it has also played into that.
Okay. If you had more time, what additional research would you conduct related to this issue?
I think I definitely would have explored the economic lens a little more. I found that it's actually the taxpayer dollars that a lot of us contribute to. Us as taxpayers, we contribute to a lot of the labs, so we are funding those things, and I think exploring maybe like our perspectives on that and how I didn't know that, and I don't know how many other people knew that, but knowing how a lot of us felt about that and getting people's opinions on that.
Okay, thank you.